Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Welcome to r/ProRevenge, where the stories are nothing short of incredible. So let's get into this first one by user/WhiteOnMyOG. I judge card games from local to world championships. For several games, I was the head judge at world championships. The town I grew up in had a game store. It was run by a husband and wife, and eventually their kids joined in on the fun. And it was a lot of fun. Every night, there would be no tables open, and for bigger tournaments, they would rent out vacant storefronts in the shopping center to fit everyone that would come. Eventually, they moved the store to a bigger store, and it would just keep growing. Some that grew up in the area and played at the store eventually had kids of their own, and they played in the store too. It became a tradition. This is a place that you took your kids to get their first RPG game, or where you buy them their first booster packs. The only Friday nights that this store would be empty was if there was a big football game at the high school. The reason the store was so popular was because of the couple. They were never flashy, and they treated everyone as if they were the best player in the world. They'd give away free snacks, sodas, booster packs for every little occasion, and sometimes just because. They were more than patient with players, helping them build decks and helping people get better at the games. They also knew and were able to teach every game they sold in the store. I can walk in any day and there would be several RPG groups and rows after rows of people playing all sorts of games. Didn't matter if you bought anything or not. I can stay from open to close and not spend a dime, and they would still treat me like I dropped $1 million. It was Nerdvana. It was also the store where I judged my first ever event after I got my initial certification. And the husband had me as a judge for almost every event. And he would compensate me half a box of booster packs for the smaller events and up to 2 boxes for the bigger ones. For one really big release weekend, he gave me 6 boxes of booster packs and paid me. His wife was equally amazing and loved her nerds, as she affectionately called us, more than he did. She would make cakes for birthdays. Every day of the week leading up to Christmas, there would be a tin of cookies always stocked and baked the night before. If people got in a jam and needed a last-minute sitter, they would leave the kids at the store and she would warn the parents she'll watch them. But she'll also teach them collectible card games. I think that's also why the store made so much money. There was a rumor that the store actually belonged to her. But then, life happened, and eventually I ended up living in a city about 3 hours away. And a few years ago, I heard the wife died, and the husband couldn't bear being in the store because everything reminded him of her. So someone else was running the store now. I planned on visiting the store, but being 3 hours away, I just couldn't make a casual trip there, as a round trip would be 6 hours. Around the middle of last year, the store announced they were going to host a major qualifying tournament. This generated a lot of buzz. People from all over the region were making plans to travel to it. I thought this would be a great time to visit the store, so I made plans to go. About 2 weeks before the event, I got an email from the publisher asking me to judge the event. I thought this was odd, as for store-level events, the store fields the judges and the publisher doesn't get involved at all. Also, while there are a number of us judges, we're not so numerous that we don't know each other, so I knew there was enough judges in the store area that should be able to handle the event. I wrote back saying I was hoping to be able to play, but shouldn't there be judges in the area that would be able to do this? They wrote back with, there should be, but the store owner said he couldn't get anyone, even with the list we sent him. Red flag. They ended the email with, you should talk to the other judges from the area and see if you can get a bit more of a story. I wrote back with, give me a few days to think about it. I immediately started contacting the judges in the area. They all told me the same story. The store was sold to a guy and he was great. It was manager that was the problem. He's a judge as well, but he thinks he knows better than anyone else. The manager would override obviously correct ruling because he was buddy with the person the judge ruled against. Apparently, this also happened at a major regional tournament. Now, one of the reasons I judge instead of play is judges are pretty well compensated, now anyways. Not just with Booster Box and our pay, but we also get some pretty sweet exclusive promos and swag. This butthole manager was hoarding judges' promos for himself. The judges found out about this after they went to a major event and another judge was talking about a sweet swag he got. The area judges put 2 and 2 together and realized what was going on. After this happened, judges that lived in the area all agreed they wouldn't judge under him ever again. This wasn't the worst of it. He would harass players, saying they can't bring any outside food or drinks. Tell them they have to buy products if they want to play in the store. He would harass the RPG players, telling them that they have no life and they're just wasting valuable time. They could be using it to play better games. Needless to say, people tried to avoid him. But as the owner would sometimes run the store himself, no one could be sure when the manager from hell would be around. I was livid. This was the store I grew up in. This was the store I learned to play and mastered all my favorite games. And this prick was killing the store. I started to formulate a plan. I wrote to the publisher and told them I'll do it. Also, what was the judge's swag for this event? They wrote back, really grateful, as they would have had to pull this event if I didn't agree to it, and told me everything I would get for judging. They even told me they'd throw in something special for helping them out. I wrote back asking for a specific item. I knew that the butthole manager would definitely want it, and I could use it to trap him. The publisher wrote back saying, yes, they would include that in the tournament kit as well. The day of the event, I woke up at the ungodly hour of 5 AM. Got ready and left the house at 7 AM and made the 3-hour drive to my home store. I got there and there was already a line wrapping around the store. I said hi to people I knew from the store and those I met at larger events. It was like a mini homecoming. I walked in and the new owner, the manager, and 2 other judges were there and went over the day. The manager started saying that he's a mid-level tier judge and that was the highest in the area right now. So he would be the head judge for the event and what he says is final. I told him that I was a higher tier judge. On top of that, I had several advanced roles qualifications. He said I was BSing him until I showed him my certification. He said he's still head judge because he was the manager of the store and people in the store respect his authority. I had to stifle a laugh. Then I told him before I start, I would like my judge's swag. Now, normally I get this at the end of the event because I don't want to carry it around all day. But given this guy's record, I wanted to give this guy as little chance as possible to steal what was owed to me. He started hemming and hawing and said he hasn't pulled the kit yet. I told him pull it. Open it and give me my swag or I'll be walking away and I'd tell the publisher and this tournament will be invalidated. The owner tried to reason with me, but I was firm. I hated doing this to the owner. He hasn't done anything wrong. From what I heard, he was trying to continue the traditions and practices the original owners established. But I knew I needed to be a butthole to save this store's community from the manager. The manager finally came out and gave me my swag. I looked over it and knew this wasn't everything that was promised to me. And I said as much. Then I pulled the email from the publisher that listed everything I was supposed to receive, including the special swag. The manager said he couldn't find it all, and the owner begged me to wait until the end of the event so he can make it right. I stood firm and demanded my stuff. I listed everything, and this time I also listed the special item I requested from the publisher. The manager went pale. The owner looked at the manager and said, "You said you got that when you judged that big event a few months ago." I pulled up the email where I requested the item and where the publisher said it would be included and showed it to the owner. The owner exploded. He demanded to see the entire packing list for the kit, and sure enough, my promised item was in there. Then I told the owner everything the other area judges told me, and the owner got redder and redder. Finally, I told the owner and manager that unless I get the items I was promised by the publisher, I would call the police and report the theft. Then walk out and make sure everyone outside knew what happened. The owner demanded the manager give me what was owed to me. He walked back and brought out everything that was listed in the email, plus the special item that was promised to me. The owner then fired the manager and apologized to me profusely for what just happened and asked me to please judge. I agreed, started the tournament, and apparently it was the best run tournament the store had since the change of ownership. No one walked away complaining, all the rulings were fair, and it even ended early. When I got home, I sent an email to the publisher with the tournament report, as well as an explanation as to what happened. I also sent a long email apologizing to the owner for my trashy behavior. The owner wrote back saying he understood why I did it, and he was actually grateful I was able to help him see the truth. The fallout, the butthole manager was stripped of his judge certification. Also, the guy he tried to help cheat was given bans from the game. The owner hired one of the area judges to manage the store, and it's slowly going back to what it was before the reign of butthole manager. In the grand scheme of things, this wasn't some huge injustice that was righted, but this store is like family to me, and you don't mess with family. And honestly, this story is a perfect example of ProRevenge. Couldn't have done any better. Our next post is by user/toughplankton. A few years back, my old car was on its last legs. My mechanic said it wouldn't last much longer, and the best thing to do was sell it cheap and move on, before it gave out and was ready to be scrapped. I loved that little car, but I put it up on Craigslist for $500 and got a bite. The guy buying it was in his 20s with a pregnant wife, and his dad was footing the bill. I was clear with them that it was sold as is, and I couldn't make any promises about its longevity. The buyer said that if it lasted 6 months, he'd be happy with the purchase. So he signed the bill of sale, and I handed over the title. I immediately went to the DMV website and registered as a sale and assumed he would finish the process by transferring the title. Turns out I was wrong about 2 things. The car lasted much longer than 6 months, and he didn't bother pay the $77 to transfer the title. I discovered this when I received a photo radar ticket for running a red light. I was confused because the street was way across town in an area I rarely visit. When I went online to view the high-res traffic cam photos, I found it was the buyer in my old car, but my name was still attached to the plates. After some serious cursing, I copied all the records, dates, bill of sale, and mailed copies off to the courthouse. It was his citation, but I had to prove it to the court. 2 weeks later, I got another letter from the fuzz. Another ticket, this time for speeding. Same driver, same car, same plates with my name still attached. Again, I had to copy all the paperwork, write a long letter to the clerk, and mail it all off to the courthouse. The 3rd ticket really made me mad. I started making calls and discovered that this scam is pretty common. Some folks buy a junker and rack up fines until they wreck or abandon the car. And their name was never on it, so nobody bothers to punish them for it. It's all on the previous owner to clean up the mess and prove who was at fault. This time, I wrote an extra long letter to the court clerk and did a little research to include the guy's picture, home address, and listed phone number. A few months went by and I thought it was all over. Hell, the car should have given out by now anyway. Then the 4th ticket arrived, showing him in high-res zipping past the radar cam in my old car with my old bumper sticker still on the back, and all his kids piled into the back seat. The 5th and 6th tickets felt like Groundhog Day. I didn't even bother put the paperwork away. I kept it out on my desk ready to copy. By the time the 7th ticket arrived, we were well over a year beyond the sale, and enough was enough. This wasn't just some dude forgetting to do some paperwork or not knowing the right way to go about buying a car. This was intentional. It was time for some pro-revenge. First, I called the police, and after a week of back and forth, finally spoke with a traffic cop who said enough is enough and went to pay the guy a visit. He said he couldn't disclose what would happen during the discussion, but the total amount of the likely unpaid traffic tickets was enough to get his attention. The tickets and late fees were several times the value of the car. That wasn't enough. Just having to pay his tickets wasn't appropriate for the 7 freaking times I had to copy that damn bill of sale for the court clerk. So I started going back through my records of every ticket and every photo, and I found an interesting theme. In every photo, his tiny kids were in the car, including the newborn infant, all packed into the back seat. I called Child Protective Services anonymously. I didn't provide any information that was not 100% factual and verifiable. The tickets showed that this guy was operating an identity fraud scheme out of his home, essentially stealing my identity and who knows how many others. His children were present throughout. Furthermore, he regularly violated traffic rules and put his children in serious danger by speeding, running red lights, and committing other traffic violations. If he was doing this stuff so often in front of big white cameras, how do you think he was driving when he wasn't being watched? I declined to provide my name and number as I had nothing more to offer and didn't want to be involved in the case any further. I gave them all the evidence I had of 3 small children in repeated dangerous and illegal situations, all of which were verifiable by photo evidence and court documents. After that, I stopped getting traffic tickets from him. Maybe the car finally gave out. Alright everyone, that's it from me for today. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel for Reddit videos every second day. I know it was just 2 stories, but they were amazing and very, very long. So with that said, that is it from me. I hope you all enjoyed, and all I want to do is see you all here next time. See you later, guys.